Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and today I'm going to review Aeon's End, the New Age from Indie Boards and Cards. So if you've watched my other reviews of other releases of Aeon's End, you know I've taught this game a couple times, so I'm going to keep this one really short. Essentially, Aeon's End is a deck builder. You are playing a Breach Mage. As a Breach Mage, or as multiple Breach Mages, your job is to take out a Nemesis, who is a monster trying to break in from the other world and destroy what remains of humanity. In order to win the game, you have to beat the Nemesis, and both you and the town of Gravehold, which is the last stronghold of humanity, have to survive the game. Aeon's End is a deck builder, which means that you start with a deck of cards that you then improve over time by purchasing more cards from the market. To do that, you generate a resource called Ether. Ether is also used to charge up to get a special ability for your character, to handle power cards from the Nemesis, which are basically cards that are ticking time bombs that cost you if you want to get rid of them and avoid their consequences. And they're also used to open up breaches. The other two kinds of cards other than gems, which generate ether, are relics, which basically have an immediate effect, and spells, which you have to prep to your breaches for casting on a following turn. You can either pay to focus a breach and put a spell there once, or you can ultimately pay to open a breach and then cast as many spells from there as you like for free. A few things make Aeon's End unique with regard to other deck builders. One is that you actually do not shuffle your deck. Your opening hand is set cards in a set order, so is your opening deck, and as you discard cards, you put them in a specific order in the discard pile, and then once you've played out your entire deck, let's just say this is my deck, you just flip it right over and start drawing from it again, which means that you need to pay attention to the order in which you discard cards to build up really good combos. Another interesting aspect of the game is that turn order is variable. So what that means is that the Nemesis could go first, one of your mages could go first, somebody could go twice in a row, including your Nemesis. You just don't know how a full round is going to play out because you don't know the order in which turns will be taken. So sometimes you can come up with what you think is a great play, only to have it ruined because the Nemesis went twice and took all your stuff. The Nemesis is also going to have their own life counter. This one has a special nest mat, which I'll leave you to discover for yourself mechanically. This is the very first game of Aeon's End New Age that you set up out of the box. And Nemesis also have a Nemesis deck. In every Nemesis turn, you're going to activate cards that are already out, and then you're going to draw a new one off of this deck. Sometimes they're enemies, sometimes they are cards that have immediate effects. A lot of Nemesis have interesting special abilities that are triggered by playing through the Nemesis deck. And there are also these cards called power cards that you have to meet conditions for within a certain number of turns or else something bad will happen. Which means you either have to discard cards, pay some ether, something you really don't want to do, but it's in exchange for something that you really don't want to happen. And that, in a very tiny nutshell, is Aeon's End. That's true for New Age and also for every other published Aeon's End box out there. And now for some final thoughts. I'm just going to start off by saying this is an Aeon's End game. I love Aeon's End. Aeon's End is my favorite deck builder, and with the New Age, that's not going to change. If you like Aeon's End, then you're going to like the New Age. However, I do want to discuss some things about it specifically that might help you make a decision about whether it's an expansion that you need. So everybody who buys an expansion to a game is typically hoping for something that gives you more of that feeling of the game that you loved, but with some fresh elements. And I do think that New Age does that, perhaps not quite as well as I was hoping, but it's very good. So I think that a lot of the market cards are they're fine. The gems don't do anything particularly new and exciting that caught my eye. But there are a couple of new keywords that do some really cool stuff. For example, there's Echo, which allows you to do the damage of a spell twice. If you time that well and pair it up with the right things, it's pretty cool. There's also Attach, which allows you to basically attach an item to a breach that affects the spells coming out of that breach in cool ways. So there are a few new things to do. The Nemesis are pretty cool, and some of them offer some really surprising new challenges. Some of them are more like callbacks to previous Nemesis, so that's a mixed bag in my opinion. The art is better than ever. Those of you who have been following Aeon's End for a while will know that the very first edition was unattractive, and that things have continued to improve from there. So in terms of artwork, this is the best entry yet, but as y'all know, that's never been my priority. The thing I think really shines about Aeon's End the New Age is I think the mages are great. These are the most different and inspired mages that I've seen in a while. You know, Legacy was a really cool entry into the series, but Because you were building your own mage, they start out really simple, and it's kind of hard to surprise yourself with cool combinations of powers. New Age has some truly different playstyles that I think are very exciting, and that's something that I really enjoyed about getting this expansion. That said, I think that the complexity level of the mages also makes this game a less great entry point into the series. You can buy any of the Aeon's End big box expansions and start playing Aeon's End. So you can get regular Aeon's End, War Eternal, you can choose to start with Legacy and start with the most simple mechanisms and build up, or you can actually start with New Age. However, if you choose to start with New Age, know that you are getting more complicated mages to play. Also know that it does spoil some plot points from Aeon's End Legacy. So if you don't care, then by all means, if you do, you've been warned. The other thing that New Age adds to the series is a campaign mode, which I think is fine. But honestly, I prefer Aeon's End as a pick up and play game where you get some mages, get a nemesis, build a market, go. That is my preference for this game. However, if you like campaign play, but you don't want to do the full Legacy experience, the New Age has got you. They have Expedition Mode, which allows you to have a mage who evolves a bit over the course of a few games, that has some rewards and consequences for how you play, and that has an evolving set of cards that are available to you on the market. The writing of the campaigns is pretty whatever. It's not, the greatest in storytelling, but if that's the kind of gameplay experience that you want, and you want to play a campaign, then New Age is the Aeon's End expansion to get. The last thing I just want to talk about, because it's my review and I can, is I'm very curious about where Aeon's End is going to go now that it seems to have become one of those games that has a big release every year. So Outcast just arrived in my mailbox. I haven't played it yet, but I'm wondering, is Aeon's End, this game that I love, going to be able to keep it fresh and keep surprising me? Or am I going to reach a point where I feel like I have invested enough in this game and I have everything that I need? I think for me, that's the big question about this game and where it's standing in terms of its future. I have not regretted a single dime that I've spent on Aeon's End. I really, really like it. I think it's wonderful. And I think that everybody who plays solo and likes deck builders should play it. But I also think that we're reaching a point where you don't need everything to enjoy the game. I still personally would just start with Aeon's End and then get War Eternal, but that is just my personal preference. I tend to favor playing the original release of a game and then building on top of that. That said, Aeon's End New Age is a very good game. It captures all of the solid gameplay that I love about Aeon's End, and that keeps me coming back again and again and again, release after release after release. And if it's where you want to start in the series, it is a perfectly fine entry point. Although I tend to be a bit of a traditionalist and I still favor the earlier entries of Aeon's End and War Eternal, I have no real complaints about the gameplay, and I give it a 9 out of 10, a Dice Tower seal of excellence. Happy gaming.